Right, good morning. Welcome to today's meeting. Just to let everybody know that don't know, Ruben has stepped down from the chair, so we'll be having an election for a new chair this morning. If everyone can be upstanding, please, for the karakia, Te Matara.
Kia mata kina ki uta, kia mata tana ki tai, e hake ana takanua, e teo, e hoka, e hoi, e hoi.
Thank you. Apologies for this morning. We have had one apology from Etta. Not here. That's the only apology. Could I have a mover, please? Apologies.
Happy to see you.
Tyrone.
And the one.
Right, we'll just go straight into the election for the chair, and I would like to suggest or ask what voting system we're going to use. Last time we used the system B, so
it was pretty good last time.
Pretty good. So, anyone have a mover that we have?
I'm happy to move B.
Second that. Thank you. Very good. So I'll call for nomination. Sorry. All in favour?
Aye.
So, mover. Second.
Tyrone, and then Ruben. If you say the names, it's helpful.
Thank you. I'm at the age where I'm starting to get in that. All right, so I'd just like to call for nominations for the chairperson, please.
I would like to nominate Lynn Leslie.
I'm happy to second that. Any more nominations?
I'd like to get the divider from.
Well, on that basis, we have votes for, I declare nominations closed. Could I have a mover? That? Second? I don't know if that's appropriate.
For this, yeah, well, second, sure.
Okay, on that basis, could I have votes for? No?
We don't need it.
Well, it's still okay.
You don't need a vote.
Okay, okay, uncontested, fine. I was asking in case someone did decide not to vote, it gave them an opportunity, democratic opportunity. Okay, on that basis, I declare that Leslie the new chair. And I want to thank Ruben for the great work he's done so far. Thank you. Oh, now you take over, is that correct?
No, you guys, no, we'll take over.
Well, you take over, you swear in.
Oh, yeah. You've got to get it over. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to, sorry, could you come and do that up?
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, and then we'll get a nice photo.
Yeah. Two, just.
Do you want to put them
Read it.
in? Out loud, yes.
Read it first.
Do I?
Great.
Oh,
And then if you do, you read it out loud, and then signature just that. And signature.
I, Lynn Leslie, declare that I will lawfully, faithfully, sorry, I'm going to get married here, faithfully and impartially, and according to the best of my skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interests of the Te Pātaka of Rākaihautū Peninsula community. The powers, authorities, and duties vested in or imposed upon me as chairperson of the community board by virtue of the Local Government Act 2002. The Local Government Official Information and Meeting Act 1987 and any other act.
Please and you sign there. I'll sign here and then we'll swap. Okay. For you.
Lovely.
That's for us. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Oh.
So much fun.
Cheers.
It was a hard fought battle and I respected your speeches and you did very well. Put up all poses.
Okay, I have no idea how today is going to go. We just roll it. I'm going to say a little something. Thanks for your confidence in me. It's impossible to replace Ruben. He's irreplaceable. But I will do my best to serve you, the board, and our community as chair. And take it easy for me as I learn. Thank you. All right, we'll get this piece of paper out. So we need to do declaration of interest, I suppose. Are we up to there? Anybody know of a interest that is in the agenda, or as always, mention it if it comes up? And then we need to do confirmation of previous minutes. You're welcome.
I'm happy to
So we need a mover and a seconder on that one.
move.
That's Ruben. Luana. And that moves us into the public forum. Oh, yes. Oh, all those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Awesome. Thank you. There's no deputations and no presentations of petitions. Is that right? We're going to so the Akura Museum Advisory Committee being presented, well, we're appointing a chairperson, or I presume confirming that, is that right?
It's been done.
It's been done, are we just acknowledging it?
No, the board has to appoint a chair.
Okay.
Oh, do we?
Yes, to confirm it.
So there's been a recommendation.
The recommendation from the committee.
I'm happy to move their recommendation.
Sorry, what were you moving?
Well, I'm moving the report. Moving
That we appoint Pam.
Okay, yep.
Unless everybody's got some. I'm
So
happy to
who-
find opposition to it.
Who is the person being put forward for chairperson? Sam Richardson. Okay. So seconder for that, please. Yeah, Ruben. And all those in favour?
Aye.
Great. Reserve committee meeting minutes.
Okay.
Is it? No? Oh, well done. Congratulations, Pam.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for that. Reserve committee meeting minutes. And we just have to confirm that we've received these. That's it. Okay, so we need a mover for that one, please. Nigel for a seconder. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Is that it? Yeah. What else have we got here? Autumn Bradley?
Oh, that's all about.
May have had them long together. Autumn Bradley Park board minutes. We're just confirming these again. Receiving those. Okay, so we need a mover and a seconder for receiving those minutes from Autumn Bradley Park.
Happy to move.
We've got Ruben as a mover and a seconder. Kathy, thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Okay. Staff reports. So Oh, sure. Philippa, to the table, please.
Page 37, board members.
Thank you. Philippa,
Hello,
how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Yeah.
I just don't look that great, so.
Okay, I will thank you.
Well,
If you're taking care of us.
Yes, so this first report is to put before you the projects that the board might like to consider funding this in the next year. We had a look at these in a workshop at the end of last month, and they have there is staff support. Staff have agreed and have capacity to be able to support these projects for you, for the board. The three that were identified were Summer with Your Neighbours for $3,000, Anzac Services with Reefs and Diamond Harbour contribution for $1,000, and Community Service Awards for 2024, middle of next year, for $3,000. The Community Service Awards is held triennially, just once in a triennium, and it would be expected that this time it will be held somewhere in the Wairewa or Akaroa areas, because last time it was held in at Otaramura, Governor's Bay. So are there any questions? I want to just put those through as recommended.
If we've got any questions.
Any thoughts about where that might be? You mentioned Wairewa or Rākaihautū. Have you any thoughts?
That can be considered later, but last time we had a lovely venue at Kaituna. There we have gone to Hilltop in the past, so there are a number.
We're open to suggestions, I guess.
I think the Grand would be a good thing.
All the way in Akaroa, so you've
Yep.
got people coming from Littleton as well, I suppose.
Well, we went to Governor's Bay last time.
Governor's Bay. And when did this happen?
The Grand,
But I'll
just
show you
beginning of
next
April. It's not right, isn't it?
I reckon the Kaituna seats pretty good, isn't it? Why can't we have it there?
They've done a lot of work.
Yeah.
They've got a big room out the back they're not using.
It's not till next year,
No.
the middle of next year, so there'll be some time to sort that out.
Sorry, that's my bad.
Okay, so are we all thinking that we want to vote for this?
I've got a question actually, Madam Chair, through you, if I may. So just on number 2, so this isn't, just so I understand it, well, I don't quite understand what the recommendation is for number 2. It's nominate Anzac Day 2024. So what does that, I mean, how does Littleton and Akaroa and all that fit into that?
Right, this is for the wreaths. For there are 4 wreaths purchased, and one each goes to each of the 4 subdivisions where there is a commemoration service.
Right.
And a board member will place those. Usually, that's the way it typically is done. So, and there is a small grant allocation for Diamond Harbour, because in there you will remember that an allocation has been given to the loons for this last year, and Akaroa and Wairewa have more recently been covered with an allocation from Strengthening Communities. So this is just putting the Diamond Harbour.
So it's evening it up.
Similar
For,
footing.
got it. Right. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
So that's one more question. So just on the loans thing, so that will be dealt with separately.
Loans,
It's in strengthening communities.
Oh, sorry.
go to strengthening
Right.
communities.
Sorry. Yep. Thank you. Cool. No further questions.
Anybody else got any questions here in regards to this? Guess what I'm hearing is that everybody likes the recommendations here and there will be no amendments to that or requests for further information. So if we're all happy with that,
Happy to move.
okay. All right, and Nigel to second, and all those in favour?
Aye.
Fantastic. Thanks, Liz. Have you finished?
No, well, I'm just wondering if Andrea's here for the
Littleton.
Littleton Community House report.
Would you like to?
I can front that probably.
Fantastic.
I've got nothing in front of me, so
Can wing it, just like me today. We can do this.
I can tell you that you have the report in front of you. It should have most of the information that is required. The group is requesting funding, complementary funding towards the purchase of an oven. Their last one has a door that's actually swinging, so it's being tied up, and they have a commercial. It is part of a commercial enterprise thing, so they need it to be fit for purpose.
It needs to
Because they're actually selling meals.
Is it a double oven?
Sorry?
Is it a double oven?
No, I don't think so, but I think it's, yes,
Okay, sorry.
I don't think so. And the complementary funding is for Littleton with the Cressy Trust, which hasn't made a decision to date.
What do you mean they're selling meals?
I'm sorry?
What do you mean they're selling meals?
They
I thought they donated
produce,
meals.
they produce meals for sale. Sometimes their meals will be,
So they're a commercial operation.
they are a trust, so they provide meals for a small amount. That's sort of very similar to Meals on Wheels program. So they will also deliver over to Diamond Harbour for people and around the bays, for people who aren't otherwise able to make their nutritious meals themselves.
It says in the matrix they ask for a small donation towards a meal of $8.50 for those that can afford this.
They're a not-for-profit trust.
Yeah.
4,000 meals a year.
It's pretty good.
That's
Pretty good.
yeah. But Andrew, you want to speak more to that?
No, I just reiterate what Paul said, they're definitely not for profit, and they ask for that contribution where people can afford to pay that. If they can't afford to pay that, they can afford to pay $5, they'll take $5, but they ask for $8.50 more maximum those costs. It's also, the outfit is also used for the community lunch, which is weekly on Tuesdays. It's not just for the Meals on Wheels service that they do. And there's nobody else in the area that offers that service at all. So.
Thank you. So do we have questions for these lovely ladies about that?
I'm happy to move it.
Move it?
That's not a question.
I'll second it.
Whatever.
And was there debate? Second?
Nigel was the second.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is probably about the best investment bang for buck that we could possibly make on this community board. The amount of, it's a cost of supporting an oven. I don't know if anybody's been up to Community House, but the amount of work that they do to support people in Littleton. There's an army of volunteers who go out day in, day out, all week, every week, delivering meals to people. And that was actually recognised quite recently by wider council at the I'm going to get this wrong, but it's the community, not the community services awards, but the volunteer awards during volunteer week. So yeah, apologies that I've botched that as to what the awards actually were. I should have committed that to memory, seeing as my mother was part of a delegation that won an award. But my point being that like this is a really, really amazing, like we're supporting some really, really good mahi in the Littleton and Diamond Harbour community. So I think that being from Park, this is really good. So I'm very happy to support this.
That's great.
I'm going to go in sequence here just to really wreck your.
No, just go for it. Yeah.
I know we've already voted, passed about and everything, but I see they're actually, the total cost is 3.9. Why did they only go for 2.4? Have they got funding for the
Because
remainder?
complementary funding with
Complementary
Crescent Trust.
Had Creasy Trust, but see, Creasy Trust hasn't come through yet.
I'm sorry, no, it hasn't. So they've requested the complementary amount, so 2,000 towards Crescent Trust.
So they're hoping. Oh, yeah, okay. No, that's cool.
Sounds like a wonderful thing that they're doing. So all those in favour, I guess, if we've finished complete.
Aye.
Everybody's in favour? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on my list is the area report. And Ken.
Thank you. Excellent, excellent. This is usually a tag team between Liz and I. Yes, it's a really full area report this time. You'll see 13 staff updates on a huge variety of topics that our advisors are working through. That's not all of their topics, but the ones that they have something to report on. Back to you. And there are some opportunities for the board to consider doing submissions. So Liz, I don't know if you'd like to speak about those.
I think the board have received emails about what the submissions are about, so we just need to know if the board wishes to submit on those four.
Submissions for the LPP, yeah?
No, this is for the tree planting plans.
Right.
Item 3.3
In paragraph 3.3.2 of the report. As the Equerry recreation grounds are included in that tree planting plan. There's the draft Greater Christchurch spatial plan. The draft tourism environment action plan, which is a government council not planning to submit on that. And however, Christchurch NZ may be submitting on it. And the cruising and prohibited times on roads island.
Okay, thank you. So we should have questions around those potentially.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it would make sense for us to make a submission on the draft tourism environment action plan, given the volume of community voice we've heard on that very issue and the fact that we've raised it and the minister's been back on it.
Great.
Is that it?
They need to move that they'll do a submission.
They need to move to the
Yeah, they can as well. Yeah, so it would seem-
So does everybody understand what Ruben's asking for there? Yep, in agreement. So we need to have a mover for.
convening submissions.
Yeah, I don't have to sit in.
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair. Submissions committee for that one thing, or
Formulating the board submission
for that particular?
for the draft tourism.
Yeah, for that thing, because I'm just wondering if we should make a submission on the no cruising bylaw.
Yes, you can.
Would that be
Should we
covered?
do that
by-
independently? We'll do those independently or we have to.
No, you can just say that you'll convene a submissions committee to formulate the board submission on whichever ones in the moment have got draft tourism environment action.
Okay. So yes, you could put that forward now, I presume.
So what the bylaw is saying.
I think that we should, because I mean, in as much as that it's quite toothless to deal with the problem that we're trying to deal with, it's at least something. which is the antisocial road user thing. We can make a comment on it.
Anybody got questions around that?
The only other one, or the other one I wondered about is the tree planting plans. Was that the plan that was proposing 70 new trees going into the Rākaihautū recreation?
ground.
So it's whether there's any,
Push back on that.
Comment from the locals.
Yeah.
From the local
Yeah.
community members. It closes in a week's time.
What the submissions?
Correct, it says there, 17th of
Yeah.
July.
Have your say? Yeah.
There's only one here, for our recreational plan.
Correct, there's one in each of the board areas in this first tranche of these tree planting plans. There are a lot more to come over the next period of time, which you'll have more opportunity to be engaged in and involved in. Staff have apologised for not engaging with the boards prior to putting these ones forward. They're wanting to make the most of the government funding and the tree planting season. So they chose one in each area. So it's the Rākaihautū recreation ground. I haven't, I don't know what.
I haven't seen.
On the link, board members, in the plan, it will take you to the there is an recreation green plan.
I assume the green ones are the new trees and the yellow ones are the old trees.
So if you go down a bit further in that, there's one there called pages.
that's the link.
You've got to push. Just keep pushing buttons. 50. Going down.
Should we switch from the trees at the moment and tree planting? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
They're high, sorry.
You click on the link inside the Peninsula and take you to the plan.
I see.
Many pages of planning.
Many pages of planning.
Yeah.
They're all the same photo though. Oh, there's different times, 2 p.m, 4 p.m. You've got to be kidding.
It's that shade.
6 p.m.
That's about shade.
Trying to be bigger on that. There's a huge sump here. They're taking water.
I'm not experienced enough to make decisions on shading of trees.
We're just going to do that and discuss the detail of the
Okay. Yeah.
submissions coming in.
So what I'm hearing is that us discussing the detail now is not all that necessary, other than making a decision around
Convenience.
convening a group,
That's
because
right.
they will do that as well during that group.
I'm just looking with the French festival hat on. There is some talk about trying to put some sort of exercise park around the outside, like in Hagley. I don't know if the new sports group are pushing that, and there's a sports building there.
I would encourage Nigel to submit on this. I would contact that group to tell them.
Yeah. We got a full finger though, don't we? We'll do that later today. Okay.
You can exercise around trees, though.
And
You can run around trees.
there's swings on there.
With the tape roaches.
Yeah.
That the board convene the submissions committee to formulate the board's submissions on draft tourism environment action, cruising and prohibitive time on roads bylaw and the tree planting plan in relation to Rākaihautū recreation ground.
At the same time, can we receive the area?
Yes, and we do that. Yeah, just ask me to.
So those two resolutions.
Should we have a mover to that? Thank you, Ruben. Seconder. Thank you, Luana, and all those in favour.
Aye.
Sorry, we will just.
No, that's fine. I'm trying to keep up there. Lost my page. 45. Oh, it's just right here. Oh, yeah. And are we already on to elected members information exchange? Are we here already? What? I'm supposed to be, sorry, we're going to take longer.
We have to take.
No, we're going to just chat a little bit.
Well, I guess showing
Everything.
Yeah.
We're pretty to see the members, my
I'm
friend.
going to be racing through it a little bit more than, okay. That's fine. So,
Don't do it first. Madam Chair, with respect, please.
okay, I hear you. I know what you're going to say. How does Lorna feel about going to? I don't have anything yet. I didn't even think that was sorry. It's all right. We can come back to you. Let's come back to you. Okay. Nigel.
I don't have anything. That's the town's gone very quiet. All the locals have left and gone overseas. There's not many people left.
Too much money.
What about the weather?
It's quiet. No, that I'm still here. Yeah, no, it's been ticking along. The new sports group had their first AGM and looking pretty strong.
That's awesome.
Still go. I did have a chat to Phil about the tennis courts. He was asking me, and he was offering to come over and do some of the work free. So, outside of that, that's a big win because the sports. Try and pull that group together and try and get some action around those courts and the building is a huge issue. The tennis club was folded in only about 10 years ago. My niece was the chair of that, and she was saying yesterday how that was folded only 10 years ago and so. But it's good to see it resurrected and some really passionate people driving it. And I guess somebody's looking for funding, further funding going forward, because it's really slipped back to considering what's going on else around the peninsula with sports facilities and recreational facilities. That's definitely coming up. There is a meeting coming up in the next week or so for community resilience in the base. Pam Richardson's been right there in the front of that.
Busy lady, isn't she?
She keeps on going. It's great. So I'll be keen to see how that progresses, especially with the current situation.
Yeah.
It's very topical at the moment. So, yeah, that's about it really. Well, I could probably bring up some more.
Thank you, Nigel.
It's winter.
Yes, that's right. Peggy?
I have a long list. I won't ramble on it, but just some, just with Steadfast, that's kind of top of mind for the community to kind of what's next. Yeah, community waiting back on staff on some stuff.
Are you asking staff to check up on something?
No, it's just yeah. So it's just top of mind for community. All this rains really brought down so much sediment on the beaches. So when we talk about water quality and that sort of stuff. But on the upside, we've planted 1,300 trees in the 2 reserves in Cass Bay, and I know that stuff was happening around Middleton as well. We planted. That's all very exciting. Yeah, that's about it really. I'll just leave it at that.
Great, thanks. Howard.
No, I'm good.
Great, good to hear that. Ruben.
I've got a few things, sorry. But they're all good. Yeah. I'll speak through till about 11, so
Okay.
27 minutes, covering 27 different things.
Oh, I'm about to use your well-used phrase of, well, I'm just conscious of time.
Yes, yes. Yes. So the first is, I think, just given the weather events over the weekend and the amount of flooding, 2 things. I guess it's a reminder of how vulnerable a lot of our communities and infrastructure is.
Yeah.
But also there's kind of 2 things I think people look to. One is what's the immediate impact on infrastructure or property or access? And then secondly, what's the response? So like driving here this morning, you could see, we noted that there were a number of places where there were slips onto the road that they were already combed and looked like contractors were out fixing things. So that all bodes quite well, but I think it's something we need to be really mindful of every time something like this happens, and they seem to be increasing instances of it. Some notes from yesterday, Tyrone, myself and Kathy attended the AGM for Te Waka, the Littleton Museum, and that was a really good update and really promising to see some new people elected into that committee as well, with amazing knowledge and experience and skills that they'll bring into that committee, which is a hugely active community with a massive project ahead of them. And I've discussed with the chair bringing the possibility of an invitation for the board to go on site and take a look around site and the project and the updates. So that I think will be really good. Also spoke to Penny from the Banff's Peninsula Community Trust, Conservation Trust, who was really keen to have the board visit the Pātaka site at some stage for a briefing to see the work that they're doing, which I think would be a really good thing for us to get on our radar. And two things finally. One is hopefully we're getting a graffiti update at some stage soon.
September brief, it's on the top.
Yeah, cool. Because there's just been a few questions from people about some of the changes in the way graffiti is removed or not removed. It means it's sitting around a lot longer, which means more people are encouraged.
Those questions forward to me, Ruben, I can ensure that our graffiti
Perfect.
can answer it.
Perfect. And the only other one was the Littleton Arts Festival, which has happened over the last 2 weeks, and just an amazing offering put on for a tiny amount of funding and support.
Yeah.
But really positive, bringing great visitors who I would suggest spend more than cruise ship visitors but also lots of opportunity for locals to get involved in events that are really low cost and accessible for everything from kids through to grown-ups. So an awesome festival, something we should definitely support. That's me. I didn't go to 11.
No, wanted to cover pull out one of those crosses of time.
Yeah, you can anytime.
Okay.
You can be conscious of it.
Ruben? All right.
Kia ora. So I'll start quite wide and then narrow it down to quite specific local stuff. So from a council perspective, we've signed off our annual plan at the end of June. You may or may not have caught that. Rates rise of about 6.2%, which is not ideal. It really, I think, staff really had to move heaven and earth to get it to that point. I think it was pretty amazing, really, especially when you compare it to some of the other big metropolitan centres. So lots of work to do there. We'll probably just leave it at that. But obviously we're in the cycle now where we start planning the long-term plans. So that's where councillors can really make a lot more impact on the particularly around levels of service, which you can't really touch during an annual plan. So all that to look forward to. We signed off the Te Kaha Streets proposal. So that's for the upgrade of the streets around the new stadium. So that was approved. Must have been a week and a half, well, almost 2 weeks ago now. So what that's going to do is obviously, well, just up the streets around the stadium for a start, really improve Litchfield Street as an offering for hospitality. There's a lot of kind of underground work that has to go on as well. It counts, I mean, the long and the short of it is that the ratepayers are paying for about a third of the total cost of it. And the rest of it's bought by all of New Zealand, as it were, through Waka Kotahi. We signed off the interim plan for safe speed neighbourhoods last week. So what the main impact that has for the peninsula is it really tidies up a few things, kind of some work that we've been doing at this board over the last few years, slowing speeds down on roads all around the peninsula. I mean, people may recall that once upon a time you used to be able to drive through the likes of Rākaihautū at 100 kilometres an hour quite legally. Can't do that anymore. Not that changed this time around, but like that's the kind of thing that there's just sort of, there's a whole lot of crazy speeds all over the peninsula that really just sort of need to be kind of evened out and sort of made a bit more consistent. Probably the main one that's impacted us this time round is Summit Road up there past the hilltop and the roads going down into the eastern bays. So they've all been kind of reduced to 60. Would you like a question?
No, that's that way, not that way.
Is it?
Sorry.
The hilltop?
Hilltop's there.
It's that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Bring.
Yeah,
Bring.
with the leave of the chair, I'll take a question.
I was just wondering, these speed operations, we'll call them, whatever, reductions, that's politically correct, because I'm wearing a red pen at the moment.
It's not really political, it's just about.
No, I'm just wondering, have we got any report on how many lives this is so-called saved, how many reduction in accidents, and how much effects these are?
I'm not qualified to answer that question, Howard.
No.
So.
Haven't received anything.
No, we have the specific numbers, but I mean, well, it hasn't happened yet, so it hasn't saved any lives. But it's about the lives that it's proposed to save. I mean, it's all about a suite of changes designed to bring roads, or to make roads and driving more safely overall, more safe overall in general. So that's cool. We convened the head-to-head walkway last week for the first time in 2 years. So that's quite exciting to get that cracking. There's about
Great new chair right here.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I'm the chair, unfortunately. Well, no, of course, I'm very happy to be the chair of that. So it's a great project to be part of, and I'm very happy to be the chair. But there's about $1.9 million worth of funding for that walkway that we hope to spend quickly rather than slowly. I think that there's a lot of people really want to get the head-to-head walkway completed. And it's just about being able to sort of work through the constraints of staff time and that sort of stuff. So this time round, there was a resolution passed by council in February that the council would work really closely with the Rod Donald Banks Peninsula Trust to try and help sort of accelerate the process of building some of those sort of connecting parts of the head-to-head walkway that sort of haven't really kind of been able to get ahead over the last few years because of COVID and whatnot. So that's quite exciting. So I'm looking forward to sort of, really just facilitating all the really, really good ideas and hard work that goes on around that table, the working party. So that's that. Le Bons Bay. So I know that I've raised it here in MEMEX before, just around connectivity in terms of telecommunications. I think that the tower that services the Le Bons Bay community, there has been some problems there the last couple of weeks. It goes down in difficult weather. So I don't know sort of the ins and outs, but basically like the internet connection and phone connection drops off quite frequently. It's a real concern for that community because, of course, on one hand, they're being told, well, this is the way forward, this is great, you're going to have connectivity. But on the other hand, it does seem quite vulnerable. So that's just something that we need to be really, really mindful of. I know that there's some work going on there, but just to reiterate, they're still having problems. Did I mention the John Jameson Lookout last time? Have I mentioned that? John Jameson Lookout. So that's that is it's a lookout up above Littleton Harbour there, right at the head of up above Governor's Bay, basically. So Summit Road Society have led a piece of work to upgrade that. I mean, there's kind of always been a car park there, but now it's been landscaped really beautifully. Kane Tofare has carved a po that is now up there, and I mean it's just really beautiful, the whole site. I encourage you to go up and look at it. So that opened up probably about a month ago, I would say. Anybody get to Littleton yesterday? I don't know what the flooding was like in Akaroa, but it was probably, I mean, I can see flooding all the way through, like on the way out here, but cheapers, it was just absolutely diabolical in Littleton yesterday. So I was having a bit of a look around, and the thing that I really picked up on was the stormwater network just wasn't able to do what it needed to do because it was blocked a lot of the time through vegetation, through just whatever. I mean, I don't know whether it's a maintenance thing or whether or not the network is no longer able to cope with the volume of water that it's being asked to deal with, but it's impossible to tell because everywhere I looked yesterday there were just blockages and including one area where the gutter was blocked by a roadside. Which is a bit of a anyway. So like,
did you remove it?
The roadside.
Well, I didn't, for lots of complicated reasons. Yeah, but that's gone on camera now. The councillor fails to get out of vehicle. It's a remote roadside.
Councillor notes issue does nothing to.
I took a lot of video. Yeah, I could have been swept away. What else? So that's just something that really needs to be looked at. I've got a whole bunch of questions for stuff that's about that. So what else? I took the mayor on a bit of a tiki tour around the inner harbour a couple of weeks ago. Have I talked about that yet? Yeah, I have. We went out to Port Levy. Have we talked about that? Oh, so we went out to Port.
I've got time. I think. Sorry,
we've got time. So Phil and I went out to Port Levy and spent some time on the marae out there and had a look at some of the different issues out there, including some of the stuff that Carl Crofts had come and talked to us about in this room a wee while ago, and just having a look at some of the streams there. So they have flooding issues there. I'd hate to think what it's probably like today. I haven't heard any word from Port Levy yet, but like that's so Phil was really, really helpful there. He's obviously a guy that sort of knows about horizontal infrastructure work, so he had a pretty good sense of what was needed to help Port Levy. So hopefully he'll be really supportive as we try and move through that issue. It seems like there are some easy fixes, but in a world where you've got more easy fixes than there are people to fix them, it's not always. I mean, that's the perpetual problem with council. Really, is that it's a challenging resource intense institution with just too many things, and you know, when the weather's like this, we're just getting more and more things to resolve, and not the people to be able to resolve them. So, but hopefully we can get some go forward on that over in Port Levy, just to help the community over there. That should just about do it, I reckon. And that's probably just about everything.
Great, thanks, Darren.
Thank you. Could I just make a couple of comments and questions?
I do.
Right, okay. First one is in the rates increases, and this is just for clarity for me and for a lot of people, because there was an article in the Rākaihautū Mail about the real rates increase being more like 20% due to the property valuations. So the intake to the income to the council is going to increase with property valuations. Was that factored into the rates?
So that doesn't increase. So what happens is that by law, there has to be a property revaluation before going in through the annual plan process. So the way that panned out is some suburbs had a huge increase in their property value, such as Rākaihautū and Bromley, and some suburbs actually had a negative, so a decrease in their property values, and most notably Avonhead. So what that meant was that, so the pie doesn't get any bigger; it just gets rebalanced across the. So the so it just gets
some increase, surely.
No.
So it's not. Yeah, so sorry. So actually, Rākaihautū, so I got my valuation thing wrong. So basically, like the house in Rākaihautū might have increased by about 80% in value, but it's not going to get an 80% increase in rates. What happens is that the pie effectively stays the same, but it just gets rebalanced as to how much of the pie a particular house pays. So some suburbs have seen quite significant rates increases, and other suburbs much less so, basically.
So the pie hasn't changed the size?
The pie hasn't changed the size, it's just the size of the pie that each householder is.
I guess it comes down to the flavour of the pie, really, doesn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, no, I'm still not that clear on that, but that's okay. But it was just.
I mean, if you want to, which bit you're not clear on, I'm happy for you to.
The property values are going up as an average over the whole country.
Yeah.
I know there's pluses and minuses to get there. The overall growth is growth. So the pie doesn't change. So You're saying the pie is the amount?
Well, the pie changed by 6.2%.
6.2%.
Yeah.
Okay, that was it. And it did factor in property values. I guess that's my answer.
Well, the property values is how much a particular household pays. It impacts on that basically. Some people pay more, some people pay less, some people pay the same, some people pay a tiny bit more. It just depends on what the impact of the revaluation of your house was. Yeah. We can talk offline about it if we
that's right. Over a bit.
Akaroa did get really, Akaroa had due to really high house price increases, Akaroa got quite a significant rates change, unfortunately, but as did Bromley.
Yeah,
they were probably the two worst affected suburbs, or two of the.
Thank you, Darren. Yes, if you've got more questions, detailed questions, hit them up later.
No, that's okay. Just a comment, Chair, to my learned friend. Drainage capacity is an issue. I see that as a capacity issue. You know, we've made the comments about the pipes maybe not being big enough.
Yeah.
I think there should be some serious thought about making sure that any pipe replacement or drainage improvement builds in some sort of a forecasted capacity increase, or getting that capacity balance. Because there's definitely the problem in coming through the bays yesterday. All the drains were overflowing to the point where it was just coming straight off the hills. It was not handling that runoff.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've got some challenges with climate change, Nigel, for sure. Yeah. Agree.
Kevin, did you have a question?
It was just a comment to say about the maintenance and cleaning, just around the bays where the contractors did clean. It was all nice and good. And then just the parts where they didn't, it was quite obvious, and they worked quite hard before the storm. They did quite a bit of work there. But then, of course, that 3 hours of rain just changed everything again. So, so the contractors were out on some parts of the place.
Luana, did you think of something that you wanted to?
I don't actually have anything. I normally prattle on about boy races, but the one good thing about the weather is that we've had a reduction in boy races. So winning.
They don't like
but also with the recent flooding in Rākaihautū, we've had a 20% increase in our rates, but we've still got dirt drains, which were blocked quite badly over the weekend. We had people out digging out the drains with some tool bags out as well. So for the future, we would like to have some concrete drains or something to actually, so there's not so much of a sediment running down the beaches.
I think that there is a bit happening in the background, figuring out what to do about Rākaihautū. Definitely 20% rates increase.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually like house dependent.
It is, yeah. Well, it's
basically,
based, so it's increased by 20%.
I mean, the suburb thing is a bit of a red herring, really. Like, it just depends on the valuation change. It's a lot.
There's something more than dirt drains would be awesome.
Yes,
that is complex, but there are people looking at that. I promise you. Yeah.
Thank you, Tara.
So I did not forget myself, eh? So, okay. Lynn, yeah. Okay, perfect. So the community hall trip hazard that we had discussions about, I think at the last members exchange here in Little River, when we visited, there's been lighting installed. So the staff have followed up on that, lighting in, and so from Mario, who's one of the community spokespeople, said that they were pleased that the lighting has been done and impressed with the difference that it's made, but there's still an issue getting to the hall in the dark in the first place, and that the rubber wheel stops in front of the car parks, his thought is to be removed before there's a serious incident, as there's already been broken toes and scraps. So that's to put forward with that. Happy? The lighting system front, like they've put them on the veranda of the hall.
And you need to be in the hall to turn the lights on.
Yeah. So we can look at that in some more detail. I've been accepted to the Waitaha Primary Health, which is an external organisation, as a liaison. So that whole process is done, and the first meeting will be on August the 2nd. I can report back to you about what that's all about. We've also got some resilience work going on here in Little River with locals and staff pushing that forward, and I will report back to how that is going as we proceed. But interesting to note that's happening in Aotearoa as well, and maybe we can touch base with Pam and things like that in the future in regards to, you know, focus first on getting something established, but then make sure we have point people to communicate.
Well, the last forum meeting, we had a representative from Wairua, and I thought that was a great thing.
That would have been Sarah.
That's in January, yeah.
Yes, yeah, she's the manager of the Little River Wairewa Community Trust. So
Yeah.
she's recently there.
And she was talking about some synergies and some sort of, I guess, benchmarking with each other.
Yeah,
and stuff.
she's great.
So that's one area there, so we have a very common focus.
Definitely, yeah.
So, yeah, I think just to make sure that it continues, because this has really been driven by the forum. Pam's at the forefront because she's Pam, and she has understanding of what it's like to live in those isolated areas. And she's had previous experience about the old system with the systems that they had that have gone away, and they're looking to bring them back. So, yeah, I think it's good that she comes to those meetings.
Ideally, it would be great to get some things established that can then be multiplied and then put around the whole Banks Peninsula.
Yeah, it really requires, it has to be community driven.
It does, yes.
And it has to really, you know, work on a common template, I think.
Agreed.
And that's, I guess, this is a discussion that's coming up in Aotearoa. And it would be good, I think, if Wairua was part of that conversation, or even greater.
Thanks, Nigel. And last but not least, Ken has
Oh,
an announcement.
yes. I'd like to introduce to you a new community development advisor for Aotearoa and the Bays. And in the order we have Steffi Brightwell.
Hi, Steffi.
Who's been on board for like 3 days. Yeah. So make sure in the breaks that you say hello and have a chat with Steffi. She's
And wish you well, because for some reason people keep resigning from it. It's lovely job. It's very important.
It is a really important job. We still have Maureen on board, and she's going to be spending a couple of days with Stevie later on this week. Hello. Aotearoa to meet some key people and into civic officers to meet some of the key staff. So so we're very excited to have Stevie. She can tell you a little bit about herself a bit later on when we're not live streaming online. How about that?
Later on.
Yes.
Right, so I think that moves us to our karakia before as we close, unless I've forgotten something.
No, it's all good.
Okay, you ready to close the meeting? So stand and say our karakia.
Kia wātia, kia mama, kia nākau, te tinana, te wairua, I te tāna takata. He moia rā e o, whakaare ake ki ona, kia tina,